Okay, so on to the weather report. What kind of trends do we have going into the wider Zen community? So the first thing is just to say, welcome Vates to the advisory board. Unfortunately, most of Olivia's crew can't be here today. Okay, there's a handful of people here today, yeah. But a big chunk of Olivia's crew can't be here today because their flight was canceled. But I won't go into too much about who Vates are because that'll be covered in the keynote talk next by Charles. So we welcome them to the board at the startup level. I thought there should be a good chance to quickly review what actually the governance of the Zen project looked like. So we have the code for the Zen project is all governed by the developers, okay? So we have a number of different sub-projects. We have this hypervisor sub-project, the Zapier sub-project, XCP&G, Windows PV drivers, and so on. Each of those teams have their local leadership team. So for the hypervisor, which is what you're probably most familiar with, it's the committers. So that make decisions within each project, and then project-wide decisions are kind of made in a complicated manner, combining the votes of all the different leadership teams. However, the project resources are all paid for by the Zen Project Advisory Board. So they subsidize and help plan the Zen Summit, and typically for a physical summit like this, they pay, the advisory board itself pays about 2/3 of the cost, and then the sponsors actually pay an additional, bit on top of that, but it doesn't nearly kind of cover the cost. They also pay for ZenBits, the test lab, OSS test, the website, public relations, and so on. So a full member, if that sounds like something your company might be interested in, so being a full member is about $25,000 a year plus the LF membership. And if you're a startup member, okay, which obviously means that you have less voting rights, but also restrictions on what sort of size of company you can be, you can join for just $5,000 a year, plus the cost of the Linux Foundation membership. So if you're interested in that, you can come talk to me, or it's actually on the Zen Project website. So last year's predictions, I guess normally weather report people don't make really outrageous predictions. They kind of say what's probably going to happen, and then it happens. So I predicted that there will be further investment in embedded and automotive, and indeed that has happened. So AMD has, as you'll see in the next slide, started to do a big investment in Zen, both on x86 and on ARM. And I said there's a big opportunity for ServerVert, and I think it's still early days to see kind of what actually happens with that. But the Cloud Software Group made XenServer as a separate standalone business unit, which obviously, I'm not the only one who thinks that there's an opportunity there for ServerVert. So that's pretty good. Unit review community. As always, we have a long tail of diverse contributors. So Zuza is at the top again. So this is emails sent to ZenDevel since the last summit. Okay, so basically that includes patches sent, but also reviews sent, discussions and help on the list, and so on. So the Cloud Software Group, AMD has really bumped up their contributions, and Vates we have kind of on the board here for the first time at 3%. A lot of that is to do with the RISC-V port, and Visible Things Lab. They were on the board last year, but this year they're a little bit higher at 3%. So it's pretty good. People, again, we have a really long kind of tail. If you see kind of the other category, which is anyone who's under 1%, that's 26%. Jan is at the top, as usual. I think compared to last year, I haven't put both things on here to comparison, but compared to last year, I feel like the heavy tail is more spread out. Does that make sense? So last year, there were a lot more kind of 1% and 2%, and now there's a lot more 2% and 3%, if that makes sense. So I think our community is really diversifying, and then we're getting a lot of people who are, coming up to speed and becoming more involved in the project. So that's really good. We have a lot of ongoing initiatives. So FUSA MSRC, AMD started a multi-year project. Hopefully I'm not saying this wrong. I haven't double-checked this with Stefano, to make not only ARM but x86 safety certifiable. And I looked in the tree. It looks like so far we have officially adopted 49 of the MSRC rules. Someone correct me if I say something wrong. There's been a lot of work on the Zephyr DOM 0. So they've started the actual upstream of making Zephyr run as a DOM 0 under Zen. And there's also a lot of work been done on the Zephyr tool stack. And it should be pointed out that a lot of this stuff is happening some of this stuff is happening inside the Zen.git tree, but a lot of it's happening kind of outside of our normal space. Like a lot of the Zephyr stuff is happening kind of on GitHub and other places like that. So it's not as easy to see. There's a lot of stuff in the Zen community actually kind of happening. Other initiative, RISC-V is making slow and steady progress. We checked in the first code for the PowerPC port earlier this week. And do we have a Hello World yet? No. Not yet, okay, but soon. Okay, it boots and it will spin, but it doesn't actually print anything in the serial console yet, but that's coming soon. There's been a lot of work on the ARM MMU, which is a special version of ARM that doesn't have like the page tables, basically. AMD SEV, again, this has kind of been a slow thing. It's been a thing that's been in progress, but we actually have the hardware secured. It's in our colo. And I understand that the funding is secured and it should actually start in the near future. Other initiative, we got on-prem GitLab CI runners running. So this should make it easier for companies who have a hard time shipping physical hardware to our data center to be able to yet engage in the GitLab CI and testing and stuff and make sure that everything works on their platforms. There's been the development of some Rust-based guest tools, and of course, Vert.io, Hyperlaunch, and Live Update are all kind of making sort of slow and steady progress in their own fields. So the next, just kind of a big announcement is I will be stepping back as community manager in the near future. So as many of you know, I kind of stepped into this role sort of suddenly when Lars kind of suddenly passed away. Just before the pandemic in 2019. And it's been a really good, enjoyable time. I think I've done a halfway decent job. But basically, I feel like on any given day, I could probably be a lot more productive doing stuff in development than on the community management stuff. So about a bit after last year's summit, I asked my team if we could find someone else to hire for the community manager role. And we have been doing a study search for that. And I'd like to announce that we have a new community manager. So her name is Kelly Choi. She was a community manager for a kind of professional project, but working with, it's a piece of software that's aimed at developers. Okay, so she has worked with developers for a couple of years now and kind of knows how things goes, has a lot of really enthusiasm, and I think she will bring a lot to the project. She was going to come to this event actually, but then she got invited to speak at a different event in Israel this week, so she wasn't able to come. But she'll be starting on 3rd July. She should be in Cambridge that week, so she'll be, she lives in Manchester, but she'll be kind of coming to Cambridge once in a while. So if you're in Cambridge, I hope to be able to arrange at least a pub session, or if you want to meet with her one-on-one, let me know if we can see if we can try and arrange that. So yeah, and hopefully that means I will have more time to do engineering stuff. I'm looking forward to that. So forecast, again, I think basically a lot of things that have been going are going to continue to go. So there's I predict continued growth in automotive embedded, a continued opportunity in the server space. I think if I had to make one kind of more risky prediction, all right, that could happen or could not happen, I think in the next couple of years, I think there's a decent chance that Vert.io will kind of become the new standard in the sense of across not just KVM but also in Zen. That basically so we'll see what happens with that, but that's my kind of forecast prediction, and we'll see how that works. Are there any questions? Yes. Thank you.